Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of Texas Tuesdays here with your host, Matthew Miller. It is nice to have you guys back. But before we get started, can you please hit that like button? Please hit that subscribe button. And if you're going to go to a game, why not save money? So go over to ticketsmarter.com, type in code BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more, or type in code BIG20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 or more. Times are tough, prices are high. If you're going to have some fun, go out to see a football game, why not save money? And then guess what? If you don't want to save the money, if you don't need to save the money, you can save the money and then spend it at the game with beverages, food, betting. I know that's a big thing now, so do that. Next up, a little bit more homework. Subscribe to the new SEC channel. It really helps us out. And then subscribe to our new Big 12 channel, which I'm coming to you live here tonight from, and the Texas channel. So please go over there, subscribe, hit the like button. We're trying to grow this brand. We know there's more Texas fans than 2,600, what we have over there, over on the Texas channel. And I think there's only 200 or 300 fans on the Big 12 channel. And guess what? We'll be coming to you live from the SEC channel next year. Every Tuesday, I will be here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. It may change time-wise, but it's going to be every Tuesday because it is Texas Tuesdays, and this is edition number 14. And then I will be here after the game every Saturday after the game or Friday. We do have one Friday game versus Texas Tech, so I will be here with that. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below, and let's get it started here. Texas beats Baylor 38-6. We will be recapping this game and then previewing the Kansas game. Texas gets a big win, and the last time they'll probably be visiting McLean Stadium and beating the crap out of the Baylor Bears, so that was nice to see. Quinn Ewers solid, Jonathan Brooks solid. Overall, guys, a lot of good in this game. So let's start with that. I like to be positive to start out. Let's start out with the good. Quinn Ewers, 18 of 23, 293 yards, 12.7 yards per attempt, and one touchdown, one rushing touchdown as well. He is definitely part of the good. So let's start with him. Guys, we finally saw the mobility come to life with Quinn Ewers. I think you saw it in spots where it's like, oh, he can scamper away, get a couple yards here and there. He was able to scamper away for a 20-plus yard touchdown run, and that is something he would not have been able to do last year, one. Two, I don't think he would have had the confidence to do it. I think that has a lot to do with confidence to be like, you know what, I can escape this, and I can run down that sideline and get that touchdown. And he did just that. Great job also by Jatavian Sanders blocking. That's part of the good. We'll get to him in a minute. But overall, in my opinion, Quinn Ewers' most efficient game of the season. Not his best game, but most efficient, obviously. The Alabama game, I still think, was his best game. But I think if we're going play-by-play basis, you could argue this Baylor game. He was very efficient. He was very good. 12.7 yards per attempt is elite, elite, elite stuff. So very good job by him. Good job by the offensive line keeping upright. I think he only had one sack, only got pressure like 3 or 4 times in the whole game, so they did a very good job as well. I think what people were saying about this offense might have been true. I had a lot of people tell me, a lot of people arguing, we kept a lot in the chamber versus Rice and a lot in the chamber versus Wyoming. And I think that so far, 2 games where you could argue that versus teams that honestly it didn't really matter and we had such a big talent advantage of. Then guess what? When we come out and play Alabama, we empty that chamber a little bit. We were definitely not vanilla in that game, and we were definitely not vanilla in this game. So maybe that was the case, and maybe these guys just kind of go through the motions versus these lesser teams. But I did say that was the next step of becoming a great football team, a national championship team, which I don't know if we're that. I think we're a playoff contender 100%. I think there's a really good chance that we do make the playoffs. But to be a national championship contender, you have to be what Georgia does. Georgia can sleepwalk through a game and beat a UAB team by 35 points. I think that's what they beat them by. It was 30-plus points. Like, that's the next step for Texas. Texas needs to be able to sleepwalk through a game versus like a Wyoming or a Rice and end up winning that game by 30-plus points. Versus Rice, we were able to do it. We pulled away late in the fourth quarter, won by 3 touchdowns versus Wyoming. But it got way too scary, and you haven't really seen that with Georgia unless versus South Carolina. I will say that we did fare better in our first opening matchup of the Big 12 season than they did in the SEC. But that is the next step in my opinion. But Quinn Ewers is definitely part of the good. Next up, let's go to another offense player, Jatavian Sanders. Fantastic game by him. He was our leading receiver again. 5 receptions, 110 yards, 22 yards per catch. And I told you guys, and I'll keep saying this, I think this guy's a better professional prospect, better NFL prospect than Brock Bowers. I'm not saying he's better college tight end because I think Brock Bowers is. But this guy, to me, he's becoming a better blocker every week. That's what I noticed by going to watch the Baylor game. He definitely doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. He doesn't. His issue is is he needs to work on his technique, and that's starting to get a little bit better. I can tell Jeff Banks is working with him because he is getting a little bit better. Like I said, he sealed off very well in that Quinn Ewers run. There were a couple other plays. The Jonathan Brooks long run, he sealed off there as well. He's getting better. He is. And I think he's a better weapon in the red zone. He's more physical. He's more physically gifted than a Brock Bowers, in my opinion. That is why I will continue to say I think he will be a better professional prospect than Brock Bowers. I don't know if he's a better tight end in college, but at pro prospect, I would take the Javian Sanders. He's been phenomenal, and I think he's going to have a big game this week for us to get the job done versus a good Kansas team. Hey, by the way, a team that I predicted to go to the Big 12 championship game. I don't know if I'm going to be right about that, but I was right in the sense of they are a good team. They're going to be a top 4 Big 12 team at the end of the season unless something disastrous happens, like Jalen Daniels gets hurt. That's the only way they don't finish top 4, in my opinion, because this team is loaded. Guys, Kansas, we'll talk about that later, but they're good. Next up, Jonathan Brooks. Fantastic job by Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks' best collegiate game. And he's starting to get consistent, guys. He was good last week, had over 160 yards rushing. This week he had 106 yards rushing, 5.9 yards per carry. And he looks like, one, he's starting to break tackles. Two, the acceleration has picked up. He seems to be more confident. I think that was a confidence thing. He didn't know which hole to hit and when to hit it. He is doing that now. And the offensive line is doing a better job of creating holes for him to hit. So overall, great job by Jonathan Brooks. We are starting to get that running game going. And if that running game can get going with the weapons we have on the outside and with that amazing tight end we have running down the middle of the field most of the time, and even sometimes on the outside, this team can reach a new level. It can reach a level that we haven't seen, honestly, since 2009. That's the level we haven't gotten to yet. We're close, but we are not there yet. We are not there. We're very good. We are not 2009 getting to a national championship good, and we're not 2005 winning a national championship good. We are close. It's the closest we've been in since then, honestly. Since we walked off that field in 2009 versus Alabama, this is the closest we have been to that. I'll jump into this comment I got. What's up, Longhorn Nation? What's up, Jackson? Thanks for showing up tonight. Hit that like button, subscribe down below. You probably already are, but if you aren't, do it. I'm sure you are, though. Back to my point. So this team overall, there's not much to complain about in this game. We're still going to go on the good because there was a lot of it. The defensive line, best performance of the season, even better than Alabama. Byron Murphy had his best collegiate game he's ever had at Texas. He has. He was phenomenal. He had 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, multiple pressures. He was a man-eater, guys, up front. Phenomenal. It was the first time this season I thought he played better than T'Vondre Sweat. There were times where I think he was as good as T'Vondre Sweat. He was even better versus Baylor than T'Vondre Sweat. So great job by him. I think this guy's got such a high ceiling. I really believe that. I don't even think he's gotten close. I think right now we're seeing like a B- version of Byron Murphy. I think there's still potential to be tapped into there. And if he is unleashed fully, guys, we're talking about a first-round talent. That's how good it is. There's a possibility if he's unleashed fully, if he can get to his potential, that we could have 2 defensive tackles drafted in the first round this year. That is how good Byron Murphy is. That is how good I believe he can be. He was fantastic in this game. He needs to do in this game. He needs to play this way the rest of the year. Another guy I want to shout out, Vernon Broughton. Another guy who I thought had his best collegiate game. A guy with a lot of talent, a 4-star recruit, really has been inconsistent a lot like these guys, but they're starting to play to their talent, and that is what we're excited to see. You know, you have a lot of haters saying Texas has always had this talent. I would agree. We have always had the talent for the most part. They were not getting to their full potential. They are getting to that full potential, and that should scare everybody in the Big 12, and it should scare everybody in the country because we recruit just as good as basically every team in college football. And if we have the coaches who can back it up and dial up great game plans like Pete Kwiatkowski is capable of, like Steve Sarkisian is capable of, like a Bo Davis getting these guys going is capable of, that should scare the absolute hell out of the college football world. And it definitely should scare the Big 12 because there's no one close in talent-wise, in my opinion, especially on our defensive line. Another guy I want to talk about. I have given this guy a lot of crap, and I'd like to apologize to him. Jett Bush. Great job. You're a good pass rusher. I might say you could be in the NFL and be a pass rusher. And I'm willing to say that. I think this guy might have a cup of coffee in the NFL as a pass rusher. He's good. He's got good bend. He's a good athlete. He's got a high motor. He was being used wrong. He was. He's not a middle linebacker. He's not he's just not. He's not a guy you should drop into coverage. And that's why I got frustrated with him because I thought, oh, if that's what he's best at, then he's not good enough to see the field of Texas. That's not what he's best at. Tom Herman, what do you know, was using him wrong. That staff was using him wrong. Chris Ash, no offense, I thought you were doing a good job. Apparently you weren't because this guy was being used wrong. This guy is an edge rusher. This guy can be a good edge rusher. I think this guy can make it, like I said, an NFL roster as an edge rusher. And he was good again in the Baylor game, had a sack, flying around. And then I could go all day, man. This defense was phenomenal. David Gabenda, props to you. It was the best. Again, I think it might have been his best collegiate game. It was definitely his most impactful and his highest ceiling type game, in my opinion. I saw him all over. He only had like 4 or 5 tackles, but he was all over my screen, guys. He was flying around. He was explosive. When he got there, he delivered hard contact. There was a play. Baylor set up a screen. The guy didn't catch it. Wasn't even close, honestly. And David Bennett went in there and just blew him up. I was like, okay, I like that. And this team has an edge to them. Texas teams of the past have had not have an edge to them. That's why you guys have idiots like Tim Brando. Don't get me started on that guy. What a fool he is. But he's talking about, oh, they have a country club attitude. There is some truth to that. But I don't think the players, honestly, for the most part, ever had that. There were certain players that did. I think it was more of the fans. But you did see it leak down to the players somewhat. Not a lot, but somewhat. And now I think that's all but gone. I really don't see it. If you've had that feeling before, you can't say you have it now. But this team, man, I'm just proud of them. I really am. It's the first time in a long time I've thoroughly enjoyed watching a Longhorn team play. I always enjoy watching them play, man. I love football. I love the Texas Longhorns. But it's just fun to see your guys have this edge to them, this nastiness, and then play with discipline. They play with a disciplined nastiness, and that just a lot of teams don't do that. A lot of teams play like a Colorado State, just flying around trying to kill people, have 17 penalties. Texas doesn't do that, and I respect the hell out of that. You can play nasty, but you can play within the rules, and I think Texas does that perfectly. I think they border that line perfectly. So good job by the staff of doing that with them. Now, guys, there were some things that we need to work on, and we will get to the bad right now. Not many. Far fewer than there have been in the past. Number one, A.D. Mitchell's assigned blocking. Anytime this guy's he's the one guy on the outside that has to get a block to spring us, it just doesn't work. Or he's one of 2 guys that has to do it. It doesn't work. It was the first play that we had on offense, a swing out pass to Worthy. If that is blocked well, Worthy's getting 15, 20 yards. Maybe if he breaks a tackle, a touchdown, like we saw versus Wyoming. If you're going to have someone be the assigned blocker, you got to have it be Whittington. Whittington is a phenomenal blocker at the wide receiver position. And then if teams will notice that. Teams will notice, if Whittington's out here and with Worthy and it's not happening on other plays too, then it's going to be a pass out to Worthy where he blocks. That will get noticed on film. So switch it up. Throw in whoever off the bench can block. But A.D. Mitchell can't be the one at this point. If you want to have him, what I do notice about him, when he's not assigned to a guy and it's out in space, he doesn't mind blocking. That's not his issue. His issue is he's not good at it. When it's this guy one-on-one, I have to make a block. No. You can't do it with A.D. Mitchell. If it's out in space, the play breaks down and A.D. Mitchell's got to lay someone out, he's willingly and capable of doing that. I've seen him do it. He did in the Alabama game. He cannot do it if it's, hey, you got 18, block him on this play, Springworthy. That's just not going to happen. It needs to stop. So it's on Mitchell early. Now that we know that, we're 4 games in, and I've seen it 3 to 4 times. It is on this coaching staff now. Do not put him in the position to where he has to be the one blocking one-on-one with a guy to spring a play loose. Do not do it. You know that's the issue, so don't do it. And by the way, he's so good at everything else. He can go up and get you the football. He can run those zag routes at the in the red zone to where he's juking out defenders at the goal line and he's wide open. They did that at Georgia. Haven't yet to see it honestly at Texas yet. He's very good in the RPO game when it's this quick slant for the touchdown like he did versus Alabama. He's great at those things. Just don't make a block. That's all I'm asking for the coaching staff and for A.D. Mitchell. Either get better at it or don't have him do it. It's one of the two. Next up, special teams. And it needs to be addressed because, again, it didn't matter in this Baylor game because I don't think they scored any, if I'm correct, off the 2 muffs that we did have, one by Xavier Worthy, one by Jordan Whittington. I believe Baylor scored 0 points. They had to go for on 4th down multiple times because they were so out of the game. But that's the thing. If you're in a close game and this happens, this very well could be the difference. Very much. They would have, if they wanted to, they could have kicked the field goal and scored 6 points. You're giving up 6 points to a defense that's very good. Your defense is the best unit on this team right now. The offense might catch up. The offense, to me, has been catching up the last week and a half, or let's say 5 quarters. I think the 4th quarter of Wyoming and the 4 quarters at Baylor. But it's still not to the defense level. I think the defense is a top 10 defense in the country. I think the offense is probably, if I had to rank them, 15 to 20 range. They're very good, and they have the talent to be top 10. But we're not there yet. We cannot be giving away free points to these Big 12 teams to keep them in games. Baylor, you're lucky with, because Baylor, I think, is one of the 3 to 4 worst teams in the Big 12. I was dead wrong about them. I had them like 6th or 7th. They're going to be probably 11th or 12th. I think Oklahoma State, who I was down on compared to most people, but I wasn't down on enough. I had them 9th. They're probably going to be 13th or 14th. But I think Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and Baylor, the 3 worst Big 12 teams, and then Houston probably. So those are the 4 worst Big 12 teams. We cannot do it this week versus Kansas, guys, and we can't do it next week versus Oklahoma. So we need to get that out. We need to find a guy. To me, I think it's more important just a guy that can recognize backspin on balls, catch them so they don't put us in bad field position, and just being able to catch the ball. I don't think it's that important to break one loose. I don't. I think our defense and offense are good enough to where that doesn't matter. To me, you don't need to stoop that low to where Xavier Worthy's a boomer bust guy out there. And on also another point, he could get hurt, and then we're really screwed on offense, in my opinion. But we don't need to rely on that, so just don't do it. Next up, safeties in coverage with wide receivers. I wrote this down because Michael Taft got beat by, I believe, Keytron Jackson for Baylor. Deep pass interference. Baylor got their 1 field goal off of this. And it came off a Ryan Watts blitz, and I think Pete Kwiatkowski got way too cute. This Baylor team could not move the ball if he just rushed 4 every time and dropped 7 into coverage. It was never going to happen. Hell, we could have rushed 3 and dropped 8. They were never scary enough to me where they were going to move the ball consistently. They might have hit a play there and then in the air, but it was not going to happen. So why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? To me, that's a desperation type play where, oh, we can't get to the cornerback, bring the cornerback blitz. That's a play you do like last year when we played Alabama. Damn, they're starting to move the ball down the field. We have to hit this. And it was well executed, but well called play, but missed execution by Ryan Watts there in that game. This game, he got blocked, and it left Michael Taft one-on-one. And Michael Taft is not good in coverage. Jaron Thompson's not good in coverage. Jalen Catalon is not good in coverage. These guys are not good at covering wide receivers. Can they cover tight ends here and there? Of course they can. Can they cover running backs here and there? Of course they can. They can't cover wide receivers, so don't put them in that position. Do not do it, especially, again, we're starting to play really good teams now in the Big 12. Back-to-back teams, in my opinion, are either the 2nd or 3rd best teams in the Big 12. That's my opinion on that. I think you could argue Kansas State, but I think either Oklahoma's the 2nd best team or Kansas is the 2nd best team. And Kansas is for real, guys. Kansas is for real. I tried to tell people, this was my Big 12 championship prediction, Texas versus Kansas, because Kansas is a very good team, and we're going to break down them in a second. We are done with the Baylor game. We'll jump into your comment real quick. Jackson, I am also excited about this game. I think it's a good game. I think there's a chance we beat them probably by 2 to 3 touchdowns, but they're still a very good team. They will be ranked at the end of the year as long, I will keep saying this, as Jalen Daniels is healthy. Jalen Daniels healthy. He's a top 12 to 10 quarterback. I think you could argue as high as 8. We'll say 8 to 12 quarterback in college football. He is dynamic with his legs and with his arm. He has like a 75% completion percentage. So I think it is that time, guys. We will talk Kansas. So the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas comes to this game 4-0, ranked 24th in the country. They average 37.8 points per game, 26th in the country, and they give up 22.8 points a game, 63rd in the country. And when I was previewing this team going into the season, I said, I think this offense is going to be very good, and I think if the defense can be average, which at this point they are, they can get into the Big 12 championship. Those are a couple of my keys to this team getting the Big 12 championship. Jalen Daniels had to be healthy for every game but maybe 1 or 2. So far, he's done that. He's missed 1. He can only miss 1 more, in my opinion, the whole way out. And then, because you do have a pretty good backup, Jason Beam. And then this defense had to take a step forward and be average. They have been that so far. And like I said, this team is talented, guys. People don't realize this. They were number 2 in the Big 12 with 4 selections for the all Big 12 preseason. Jalen Daniels was the number 1 quarterback on that list. Devin Neal was the number 1 running back. So, guys, this is going to be the best quarterback running back combination we have faced all year. Isn't that crazy? We played Alabama, but Kansas is a better quarterback. Jalen Daniels is better than Jalen Milroe. And I think Devin Neal's better than Jason McClellan or Roydell Williams. I really believe that. He had over 1,000 yards this year. He's on pace again for that. 394 yards, 6.9 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, 1 touchdown receiving, so 6 touchdowns overall. He's a very good back. He's going to play in the NFL, and I like the backup. Daniel Highshaw Jr., I believe, 235 yards, 7.1 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Jalen Daniels, listen to these stats. 74.7% completion percentage, 705 yards, 9.4 yards per attempt. He's got 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is with missing a game. So he's done this in 3 games, and I think, got pulled in the Illinois game late, if I'm not mistaken. I know they tried to take the air out of the ball. And then they have talent again all over the place. Lawrence Arnold is going to play in the NFL. He has 18 catches for 246 yards, 13.7 yards per catch, but 0 touchdowns. Their Luke Grimm is the one guy at wide receiver. I believe he's a wide receiver. He might be a tight end, but he's the touchdown guy. He has 3 out of the 5 touchdowns thrown by Jalen Daniels. So that's the guy we got to look out for. And then this defense has talent. Kenny Logan Jr., leading tackler at safety. He's going to play in the NFL. Austin Booker and Jerome Robinson on the defensive line, 3.5 sacks each. They will play in the NFL. Kobe Bryant, all Big 12 cornerback, 2 interceptions, 2 passes defended. He is going to play in the NFL. He's going to be matched up with Xavier Worthy. This will be Xavier Worthy's probably second toughest matchup of the season. I put Kool-Aid number 1 from Alabama because he's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL. This guy's a chance to be a late first round, early second round draft pick. I think that's where he's going to end up, and I think he's the second best corner we will face this year. He's that damn good. This team is talented. This team is good. I said if they could stay healthy, they would be right where they're at right now. And if they can stay healthy, they will be one of the top 4 teams in the Big 12 at the end of the season. In my opinion, they'll be the second because I think they'll beat I think they'll beat Oklahoma if they're healthy at home, and I think they'll beat Kansas State. I believe they're at home too. Maybe it isn't. I don't care. I think they have better players than Kansas State. I think Kansas State has a better offensive line, but everywhere else, I think Kansas is better. And I think this Kansas team will give us problems, guys. I think Jalen Daniels is one of those guys. If he has time, he's going to shred us. This is what's so hard about him because you got to keep him in his pocket, but you have to get pressure. So again, I think we have to be better with the rushing lanes because we were okay versus Jalen Milroe. Jalen Daniels is just as explosive, and he's got a better arm. And guess what? If he escapes, he can not just run, he can throw on the run and be successful. That throw that he had versus Illinois running to, I believe, his left and throwing, or it might have been to his right. Either way, it was on the run. It was a 40-yard dime. This guy is a top 10 quarterback in the country. He can expose you in multiple ways. You have to keep your rushing lanes down and try to keep him in the pocket. That's the key. Keep him in the pocket, make him a consistent pocket passer, and even then, he will get his yards. You have to keep stuff in front of you. This needs to be a methodical game for Kansas. You cannot allow big plays. I think if this is methodical, we beat them because this team does rely on the bigger plays because their offensive line isn't great. It's good. It's not great. BYU, I mean, no offense to them, we have a much better defensive line, but they were giving him all time versus BYU. There was one play that's tweeted out on my Twitter. He had like 9 seconds to throw the ball. If he has that time versus us, guess what? Our back end is the weakest part of our team. He will beat us. He will beat us consistently if we give him that time. So I think you're going to see some safety blitzes. I think you're going to see some linebacker blitzes at times, but the edges have to contain this quarterback. They have to. If you're going to bring the blitz, they have to stay patient with the rush lanes, not over pursue the football. So where you end up behind them, because we did that versus Jalen Milroe multiple times, especially Anthony Hill and Ethan Burke. And that's why I said in that game, honestly, guys, I didn't want to see them play a lot. I kind of want to see the same thing. Anthony Hill, I don't mind spying. You can do that. I don't want to see a lot of pass rush from him. I don't want to see a lot of pass rush from Ethan Burke because they did get a little lazy in their lanes versus Alabama, and Jalen Daniels is better than Jalen Milroe. And if you get lazy with your lanes, he will expose us even more. And our back end, like I said, is our weakness. So we have to contain him in the pocket. And when we do bring blitzes, again, that makes it even more crucial to stay in the rush lanes and keep him in the pocket. That is the key to this game. Keep him in the pocket, period. If he has over 50 rushing yards, this will be a fourth quarter game. This will be a fourth quarter game because we'll sack him. And if he has 50 rushing yards, that means he's really rushed for probably 75 to 80. So keep him in the pocket under 50 rushing yards. That's the one key for our defense, in my opinion, versus Jalen Daniels. I'm not really worried about Devin Neal in the running game. I'm more worried about him in the passing game. Also, for our offense, Ja'Tavion Sanders, you got to repeat what you did. Kobe Bryant is going to do a good job on whoever he covers. He will do a pretty decent job on Xavier Worthy, and I think he'd do a very good job on A.D. Mitchell. Ja'Tavion Sanders is the one guy that we have versus everyone that I believe is a mismatch. There's no linebacker in the country that can stay on him one-on-one because they're too small and they're usually too slow. Safety, you find some pretty big safeties that can. I think Kenny Logan can compete with him size-wise. So, like, red zone, I don't expect him to, like, high point a ball and go over Kenny Logan if that's who they choose to go after. But in the open field, he's faster than Kenny Logan. He's a better athlete than Kenny Logan. So, you have to, guys. You have to utilize him. I think it's very big that Jonathan Brooks also breaks 100 yards again. I want to see that run game. I want to see him lean on him because that is one thing Kansas doesn't have. I think their upper echelon talent is as good as anyone in the Big 12 other than us. The difference is they don't have the depth that even Oklahoma, Kansas State has. That's their issue. Their top 25, 26 guys on both sides of the ball combined are very good. Once you get past that, it gets iffy. That's why I said if they stayed healthy, they'd be where they're at, and they have so far. So lean on them, guys. I want you to run the ball. I think this is actually the first game, in my opinion, to where I think the run needs to be heavily focused here. And I think when you do run well, and hopefully you do, you hit them with play action over the top. So, guys, I do have a prediction for you. I know the line's 17. I'm pretty in line with that. I think over time, Texas will just consistently be ahead. I think this is probably like a 7 or 20-10 game at halftime. And then I think we just take advantage of them being not very deep in the second half, and I think we take them out into the deep waters of the ocean, and I think they eventually drown, guys. So Texas beats Kansas 38-20. I've been pretty good with the prediction so far score wise. I think I had 34-17 versus Wyoming, and it ended up being 31-10. And then I had what did I have? 37-17 versus Baylor, and Baylor didn't score me a touchdown. If they scored a touchdown, it would have been pretty damn close. And if Texas scored an extra touchdown, but or no, we did. Then let me go back. 38-6. So I was right on them. Basically, I said 37-17. They scored one more point. So I think Texas wins 38-20. I think the over-under is like 62 points. I think that's too high. I think both defenses are. I think Kansas is good enough to contain us for the first quarter and a half, 2 quarters, and I think our defense is good enough to contain them to under 24 points, honestly. So the only team that has been able to break that 24 number or equalize that is Alabama, and I think Alabama has more depth. I think, honestly, Kansas up front on the offense probably has more talent than Alabama. Even at, like, if you want wide receivers, they're probably about even in my opinion. I think quarterback's better. I think running back's better. I think Alabama's got a better offensive line, and also Alabama's deeper. And that's why I expect this game going into the fourth quarter. I think Texas will pull away, and Texas beats Kansas 38-20. We will improve to 5-0, and that means we will go into Red River rivalry undefeated to play Oklahoma, who I hope is undefeated because I want that game to be big. I want to whoop their ass when they're undefeated. Guys, that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for being here. Hit that like button, subscribe. I will be back Saturday after the game. Game's at 3:30. I'll be back about 7 p.m. Eastern time right here on this Texas channel and right there on the Big 12 channel. So subscribe, hit that like button. Thank you guys for coming out. Hook 'em, guys. Let's go get a big win this Saturday.